Hey there, it's Seb Fry, here with another exciting episode of It's a Seb Show. You know, It's a Seb Show is all about real estate, except when it's not about real estate, except when there's something else I want to talk about. And today, I want to talk about what everybody else is talking about, which is this whole election / riot, protest, coup attempt, whatever, at the Capitol. So here's what I had to say about that. A lot of people obviously alleged there was a fraud in our election, that it was a rigged process, and obviously the person who mostly said it most loudly, most frequently, was Donald Trump. And as everybody knows, if you say a lie often enough, eventually people will start to believe it. In this case, it didn't take very long for people to start believing that lie because they wanted to believe the lie. But the reality is that actually there was no fraud in the election, at least not fraud anywhere near enough to change the electoral result. And how do I know there was not any fraud in that election? Well, I don't actually know for a fact, but the preponderance of evidence leads me to believe that there was in fact no great degree of fraud. As a case in point, I will direct your attention to the phone call that Donald Trump had with the Secretary of State of Georgia, where he brought up a number of reasons why he thought that there was fraud in the election. And on that call and the subsequent press conference the next day, the people from the Secretary of State's office in Georgia, all of them Republicans, all of them Trump voters, and all of them people of integrity, they went down line by line and they explained why all of that was untrue. It was a lie, it was bad data. It was quite extraordinary, that whole press conference. And during this whole election, post-election period, there were a number of very similar allegations made in many other different court cases. And for all of those ones that I could actually see where there was a specific allegation made, I went and I researched it. And what I found was very, very similar to what the people in Georgia were saying, is that it's not true. It's made up. It's conflated. It's just bad data. So I myself am perfectly at peace with the fact that there was no great degree of fraud in the election, but in a way it doesn't even matter. And the reason why I say that is because we live in a republic. This is a Republican form of government, and the states have a lot of rights. Specifically, they have a sacrosanct right to choose their electors for the Electoral College, right? This is one of the core state rights. Nobody has power to tell a state how to run its own elections. So these states ran their elections in the way that they saw fit. Nobody can tell a state, hey, you can't send out ballots to anybody you want to. You can't do signature matching this way or that way, or you can't count ballots that were postmarked by whatever date. It's up to the states to decide how they want to run their elections. So in fact, the states ran their elections in the way that they determined they wanted them to be run. Then they certified those results, and they sent their electors to Washington, D.C. to vote in the Electoral College. Now, Mike Pence, he has a very ceremonial or ministerial role in this whole process on January 6th. All he gets to do is simply count the votes and read them out to Congress. Now, President Trump was pressuring Pence to discard the votes from certain states so that only enough votes for Trump would be counted so that Trump would win. And here's a problem with that, is that there's nothing in the Constitution that gives Pence that power. So what Trump was urging Pence to do was to do something that is unconstitutional, something that is illegal. And here in the United States, this is a nation of laws. We have to follow the laws, and the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. So Trump telling Pence to violate the Constitution, that's a violation of Trump's oath right there, because he's supposed to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, not rewrite it on the fly to give his vice president powers which do not exist. So that right there is a violation of the law and a violation of Trump's oath of office. But then, of course, at that same time, we have this whole, what do they call it? March in Washington. I don't know what they billed it as, but they had tens of thousands of people there gathered on the mall, and then Trump told them to go down to the other end of the mall, go down to the Capitol building and fight. He told them to fight. He said, "I will be there with you fighting on the steps of the Capitol." And of course, he sent them all down there, and then he got in his limo and drove away back to the White House, where he watched it all unfold. Now, so there were tens of thousands of people there. I've looked, I can't find out how many people were there or how many people entered the Capitol. Anyone who entered the Capitol in that riot, whether you were peaceful or not, it's a violation of the law. You'll probably have some price to pay for that. But even of the people who entered the Capitol, obviously not everybody who entered the Capitol did so with murderous intent, but enough people did that you really have to say that their goal there was to subvert democracy. Their goal was to stop the process of certifying Joe Biden as the president-elect of the United States, as the Constitution requires. So these people who went in there doing that, they were in fact looking for a coup. They wanted to subvert the constitutional process. They wanted to break the law. Unfortunately, several people died in this whole process, and for what? I guess they hope to achieve the impossible of having Donald Trump certified for another 4 years. Maybe they're believing QAnon or some ridiculous conspiracy theory, something. I don't really know. But it's a very sad day for democracy because this is not how we do it in the United States. That's how they do it in banana republics. In banana republics, their weak and fragile democracies are often circumvented with just these kind of antics, right? This kind of thing happens in shithole countries. But now, because it's happened here in the United States, does that mean that this is a shithole country too? We certainly have come a lot closer to that status. We certainly have lost our moral authority when it comes to the peaceful transition of power, because while we have had that for well over 200 years now, all that is gone. And now what we have to do is heal ourselves as a country. And the people who perpetrated this, they need to be brought to justice. There's going to be a lot more information coming out in terms of how all this was run, like how did the protesters gain access to the Capitol, why wasn't the National Guard called out, why wasn't there enough planning before this when the FBI had credible information that there was going to be some sort of attack like this on the process. A lot of this is going to come out, but certainly right now, today, with what we know that it's a very, very sad day for America, and I really hope that we'll be able to get to the bottom of this and root out the bad actors who right now are threatening the very foundation of our great experiment here. So listen, I just wanted to get that off my chest. If you have any comments or thoughts on this, I would love it if you would write a little comment here, or give me a thumbs up or even a thumbs down. I'd be really curious to see who wants to give me a thumbs down on this. And of course, if you want to share this with anybody, that would be awesome too. I would really appreciate it. All right, well, that is it for this episode of It's a Seb Show. And don't worry, I will have another episode up again before too long.